Welcome back, everyone. My name is Janice Malillo, the host of Stories That Inspire Us, the author series. Today, another amazing guest. And let me just say, I know this guest on a very personal level. We are very good friends, and I'm just going to hop right on into it. She is a two-time international best-selling author, soon to be third-time international best-selling author, with her current co-authored project, which is officially coming out this weekend, Ignite Your Faith. And I am so excited to welcome my dear friend, Vanessa Ciano Saracino. Welcome, Vanessa.
Thank you so much, Janice. It's great to be here.
Oh,
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you are so welcome. I'm so excited to get this conversation going. And just to let people know, you and I had met through a co-authored project. I want to say it was just about 2 years ago. And we really hit it off. You're a Jersey gal, I'm a Connecticut gal. And although we have never met in person, I would have to say that we know each other very well. And I'm so glad that I had the honor and the opportunity to meet you, because your faith overall is really what initially, I think, attracted us to one another, because we both have a deep faith. And within just a short amount of time, here you are 2 years later, third book coming out. Before we hop into the conversation of your book, when you look at that experience of becoming a published author, what is one thing that stands out to you? Like when you hold a book in your hand that you've co-authored, what does that feel like to you?
It feels completely surreal. I mean, I've done some pretty cool things in my life, and I think this has to be one of the coolest. There is nothing like me being able to share some of my stories, especially the triumphs after hardship. So, I actually took each book I co-authored and I signed it for myself. And I wrote a little note to myself in it, in the back of it, back of the story. And, I've always wanted to write, and, God has certainly given me a lot to write about. So, it's only natural that after having an incredible love for reading books. I mean, I had a library full of books, inspirational books that I've read in the past, and to be able to write my own stories and then move into, doing my own self-published books, it's an incredible journey. It's a wonderful feeling.
I certainly can relate to that, having co-authored numerous books as well. I forget the count, I think it's 15 or 16. But I think what is really important that we share today is the power of your faith, which is the power of telling your story with the hopes of igniting others to be inspired to take action in their own lives.
Yeah, it's really truly amazing. And the road that led me here is just simply fascinating. Um, you know, Signs and wonders are all over the place, and I certainly had my share of them. And it was interesting because I'm going to share this with you. It was my ex-husband when I shared a little, God wink moment. He said to me, "What do you speak to God now?" And I was like, "Every darn day." And I realized that he was keeping me from my first love, and that marriage quickly ended after that. But he works in my life every day, and I prove that in this chapter in this book of how he has maneuvered my life exactly where he wants me, and for what. So it's really incredible.
You know, it certainly is. And I want to tell you, when you had, I want to back up a tad, when you had reached out to me to be on your launch team, I was like, oh my God, heck yes. You sent over the PDF of the book. And of course, I read your chapter first. But I really have to tell you, I was very impressed. And I just want to give a shout out to Ignite Publishing and, of course, Lady JB Owen, and your other amazing, I think there's 31 co-authors altogether. And
Correct.
I cannot wait to read the rest of their stories. In fact, I've started to read them. And you know what I really loved about this book too, because I read, of course, the beginning part where each of the authors was, giving their hopes for the book. And it really was on such a personal level. And the other part that I really enjoyed, of course, were the Ignite action steps from each author. Priceless. And
Exactly.
and I was going through making some notes. You know, I think one thing that inspired, of course, the whole book, obviously your story has inspired me. And as I said, I'm in the process of reading other stories. But one thing that JB Owen wrote in her introduction: inspiring stories that will uplift your heart and enrich your soul. That's pretty profound. And I thought, what a better way to have all these amazing co-authors come together and really share some very personal, some very raw, some very vulnerable stories. And it all goes back to inspiring others and igniting that flame within, that faith really is what carries us through.
Exactly. Exactly. And she's, first of all, Lady JB Owen is an extraordinary woman. We met a couple of years ago, and she's been, speaking, she speaks in life into everyone she meets, myself included. And, I just knew that I wanted her as a part of my journey in some way. And she had been, she's published, I don't know, 22 books, all about ignite moments in different parts of your life. And I just kind of grew attached to her. She was doing some great things on Zoom every week, just to keep people, like-minded people, together and talking big things. And it was just amazing to me. And the little nudge for ignite your faith became stronger and stronger and stronger. And I said, you know what? I want to do it. And I did. And it's been the most incredible experience, from the authors to, the support. We laughed, we cried, we shared Zoom, we had campfires every week with other authors. We just became brothers and sisters in a much bigger, for a much bigger purpose. And I knew a long time ago that I was made for such a time as this. And my life is just spiraling, um, you know, into all I was created to be. And it moves so fast from everybody I've met. And just, there are no words to describe what this has done for me and for the other authors, how close we are. We love one another like brothers and sisters. We are forever, tied to this project. And I'm numb. I'm absolutely numb that a beauty like this exists and that I have had a chance to live it with these other great authors. It's one of the biggest blessings of my life.
And that is so beautifully and well said. And thank you so much for sharing that. I'm curious to know, are there any first time authors associated with this project?
I believe there are, but being that there's 31, it's hard to keep track of who's who, because until I actually get the book in hand and sit down and read everybody's story, there is. there is definitely.
Mm. And I am so excited for them as well.
Yeah. I'm excited. I mean, everybody, we had an opportunity to sit on a Zoom and read our stories to each other
Wow.
during the process. And, you know, okay, my story was my story, but it wasn't really until I started sitting down with a couple of other authors and sharing our stories and reading it to one another that it just hit me. I was like, oh my goodness. Like the beauty in this book is beyond you you can't even comprehend.
And when you say the beauty is beyond, I really felt the depth so much more so. And I think because Ignite Your Faith, in my opinion, is really coming out in a very timely manner. And we all want to ignite our faith, and whatever that means to for you, whatever that means for me, anybody that's listening to the podcast or maybe viewing it on YouTube, wherever, we all want to ignite our faith in a way that feels very wholesome and very good.
Yes, exactly. And you know what? There's a big revival going on all over the world right now. So this book could not have come out at a better time because, I hope that I ignite people's faith with my story to show you that God is real. And the title of my story is God is Big. And as you read it, you won't understand why the title of my story is God is Big until the very last sentence. And there's a reason for that. It's strategic. Because when you read my story, you wouldn't think that God had anything to do with this disaster or what seemed to be, but it happened to be the biggest gift of my life. And what I got out of all of the loss was priceless.
You know what? I just got the chills when you said that, because I felt that when I read your chapter. And, of course, we want to share a little glimpse. We don't want to give away too much, but suffice it to say, like, I felt that, I don't know how to describe it other than reading it, relating to different parts of it, feeling like I imagine you sitting at your laptop typing this out and reliving what you went through, but giving yourself the dignity and the grace to know that, as you said, God is big. God is
Oh my
real.
God. I'm gonna tear up. I truly want everyone to understand. I mean, if there's anything, um, my father gave me so many gifts. Um, we had a very special bond, and I think I honored him in the best way I possibly could have. Um, we had a very, very special bond.
Mm.
And I know, and you'll see in the book, that he is smiling down from heaven.
Oh, absolutely, Vanessa. And I'm I'm thinking back to, as you know, I lost my dad almost 3 years ago. And I remember one of our last conversations, and I'm so blessed and grateful. He lived with me for the last 2 years of his life, just the best 2 years. One of our last conversations, whenever my dad wanted to get something across to me that he wanted me to figure out, he wanted me to think about something, but he wanted me specifically to really pick up the ball, so to speak, and figure it out for myself. And he would always, and I'm wearing glasses right now, but he would always tilt his glasses down and then he'd take them off and he'd kind of give a look and he'd say, truly, Janice Regina, you were meant for more, and then it was da, 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 whatever he was trying to tell me. So the sidebar, if you ever see in my show notes, truly,
You're truly VA.
right, truly your VA.
Is that because of your dad?
It's because of my dad.
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's interesting. While my father was battling cancer, he used to say to me, Vanessa, tell me another story. I never knew that about you. And so I'm on a personal mission to tell all the stories I can, because I realize how much we don't know about one another, and how the conversations that we have are superficial and flat. There's no depth to them. And I am blessed now because I have hundreds of people that I've encountered that I've had real meaningful conversations with, and have gotten to know people on a much deeper level. And
Mhm.
it's such a gift. But I tell my family now, I said, open your heart, you know, make time for one another and share who you are. Because it was my father who said, I never knew that about you, as he's battling cancer and, moving into the afterlife. There's so many things I wish my dad had known. And, so now I'm going to do that and write my little heart out.
As well as you should. And thank you so much for sharing that with us on really, again, another personal level. And I think that's so beautiful. Like I can just picture your dad. Vanessa, tell me another story.
Yeah. Tell me another story. I mean, it was one of the hardest things I'd have to go through, you know? Saying goodbye was not easy.
No, it's not. And I'm sure all of us on some level can certainly relate to that. But, it's done with your story is done with such grace and dignity for what you went through, but also what your dad and your family went through, really from a very poignant type of thing, because we know, of course, your dad had brain cancer, correct? I think it was brain
He had
cancer.
esophageal,
Esophageal.
and it metastasized to his brain.
Mm. And I think when we hear that word cancer, but there was still hope. There was still life in your dad, that he wanted to share those moments with you.
Mhm, mhm.
Really, for me, so inspiring. Like, and I'm so grateful that he had that time with you, and that you had that time with him. I mean, that is just so beautiful.
It really was. Nothing else mattered, and it was interesting because I got called all sorts of names, but you know what? You know, in retrospect, I would not have done anything different. I would have done it exactly the same. And you know what? Sometimes love is worth laying it all down for.
Oh, it certainly is.
I mean, I
When
lost everything in the process, but I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
Right. And I just want to go back for a moment too.
Sure.
Along with, being an author, of course, you are a CEO, you are an influencer, a blogger, a fashion designer of your Christian clothesline, as well as other items, Be You Tiful. And I remember when we first met and you were kind of really starting, in my opinion, to put yourself out there, but now you are like, boom, out there. You're sharing your passion, you're sharing your Christian values, you're sharing your inspiration. You have an Etsy store with all of your amazing, um, inspiring different clothing, journals, like, and I'm so proud of you, is what I'm trying to get at.
Thank you so much.
You are
Really
so.
means the world to me. Yeah, it's interesting because I talked about this in my first book with you,
Mhm.
that it takes one person to inspire you. And one person inspired me to take what was in my hands, not to reinvent the wheel, take what is in your hands. And I knew that I had kingdom values, and I knew I loved to inspire. I knew that I needed to stay true to my fashion background. And I knew I had my faith that like gave me this amazing life and this amazing journey that I live to tell about it. And so that's exactly what I did. And then I just started to figure out, how can I do that? And I started coming out with a devotional every Sunday. And, that devotional gets like 3,000 post engagements every week, with hundreds of comments and hundreds of shares. I mean, it's a movement. What I share in my devotional is what I've used to inspire myself to do all the things that I've done. And then, the fashion part, being an Amazon influencer and coming up with these great outfits that you could buy for less and look like a queen without spending a lot of money, is something that makes me really happy to be able to do. And then, the inspiration, all the inspirational quotes. Now I'm actually starting to share prophetic messages on my Facebook pages. Things just come to me and I go on there and I share them with the world. And that's where I was made to be, what I was made to do. So it really has come full circle. God definitely did not give me all the experiences I've had to let it go to waste.
And Vanessa, I think it's in many respects more than just a movement per se. It's a faith-based inspirational movement that can really move mountains.
And that's the hope. That's the hope, is that my voice will make a difference in many women's lives to help empower and encourage them.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because I think especially for women, and I know men as well, but especially for women, sometimes we feel our voice doesn't matter, or what we want to share, like something from our story doesn't matter. And I always go back to the reason why I started Stories That Inspire Us. And I talk about this probably every other podcast episode, it does come up. But Stories was really inspired by my son, Ryan Scott, who suffered a life-threatening injury.
Right.
He's okay. He's doing very, very well. I am truly blessed and grateful. But what that really meant for me, as far as sharing his inspiration, sharing his story, was really to provide that platform for me to help others to share their stories, because there's a value in your voice to share that inspiration, to inspire others. And I want to encourage everyone to share their voices. So thank you so much for sharing that.
You're so welcome.
When you sat down to write your specific chapter, and you had mentioned you really weren't sure what you were going to initially write about, excuse me, when you started the process, and perhaps you're writing it out in longhand, or maybe you're on your computer, obviously your dad came to mind. And what was that like for you when you first started typing it out? Like, what was your feeling?
Writing this story was the hardest one I've ever written. When I write, I usually only write one draft. It actually comes to me very naturally, the pieces of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did my brain dump to talk about like the things that I was thinking about and what I had experienced, and a part of that journey for me, it was actually suggested that I use part of my father's eulogy in the book.
Wow.
And it's interesting because my father's eulogy was about 3 pages long, and it was beautifully done. And the fact that part of his eulogy is published, will be published, makes me so happy because it was beautifully written. It actually talks about how he came here with nothing and built a life. And I call it that some girls could only dream of. And how he gave us a better life coming here from Italy, not knowing what would be, and gave us a chance at life that we would not have had back there. So it really, I mean, the eulogy is really a work of art on its own. The way I articulate what it means to be here from poverty level in Italy. Not really what we would consider in America poverty level. And my parents were very distinguished in their motherland and taught us all the right things. I mean, church every Sunday, visiting family after lunch, and, you know, morals and values and ethics and, you know, manners, and, you know, just so proud, to call him my dad. I don't know if I answered your question or if I
No,
went
I,
out on a tangent,
no,
but
you definitely did. I meant to say yes. Yes, you
okay.
definitely did. I'm getting a little tongue twisted here because I have all these thoughts running through my head on what to ask next. When you have, I want to go back to you and your co-authors for a moment, because
Sure.
that is a real integral part of the story, meaning everyone coming together on Zoom to get together for these campfires or to read one another's story. Can you think back to perhaps another author's story that you heard? What did you take from that, from their story?
I took so many things from so many people. It's the way each one of these authors write is like a melody. The book is a beautiful symphony of thought, emotion, character, faith, belief, doubt. Like, it's just every single author I've encountered has been just, I never knew such beauty existed, right? Because I was married, I was a workaholic, I was working in the fashion business. That's all I knew. And then all of a sudden my world explodes here by writing with other authors and connecting with other amazing human beings that I just, I remember going on our group chat every once in a while, just saying, I just want to let you guys know how much I love you. You know what I mean? Or I'm crying, I'm bawling my eyes out today, like, just incredible, incredible human beings, and the spirit in every single one.
Wow. The spirit in every single one. I think that's so beautiful. I'm scribbling notes and I can't read my notes, but I'll figure it out at some point. 'Cause when you receive the finished product in your hands, and I know that you can relate to this based on your other two books, the books that we are on, and of course, speaking of Queens, the Queen series that you are on with another amazing co-author from that first book, Naj.
Right.
What was it like? Describe for our audience, what was it like to hold those books in your hand?
Like nothing I've ever felt before. Like nothing I've ever felt before. I mean, if my story can change one life, inspire one life, encourage one life to believe and go forward, and um, it's all worth it. It's being published and having your story be printed on pages that will forever be in, be in libraries and people's personal homes. And I don't know, like it's exponentializing impact. And that to me is that's priceless.
It certainly is. And of course, I just want to segue over one moment to the Wisdom Audio app. Wow. And thank you to all the amazing people who are currently on live. I do see some familiar names. So thank you so much for being here today. When you receive that box, I hope you do like make sure you video yourself, because I think that's going to be, remember when you were saying your books that you've done, you've always written yourself a little note in the back of each one. And I think that would be another great way to have this amazing remembrance of this whole experience with these amazing co-authors.
Right. It sure would.
Oh my gosh. Vanessa, where can our viewers and listeners connect with you further?
Facebook, Vanessa Ciano Saracino. On Instagram, inspiration.fashion.faith. I also have a Facebook group with about 5,600 followers. That is for women only. That is facebook.com, Inspiration Fashion Faith. They could actually come on, follow, like, and view all the free content and all the inspiration every day. And that's about it.
Wonderful. And of course, I will make sure all that information is in the show notes. For those of you viewing this, Vanessa's backdrop is of the book, of course, Ignite Your Faith. And to her right, would be to my left, is a picture of the book. And then to the right or left, I'm getting my rights and lefts mixed up here, is Ignite Your Faith. And really today you ignited this conversation in a way that honors your journey, that pays on honor to your dad's journey. And really, you have ignited the inspiration within. And I know anyone who views this, listens to this podcast, will also be inspired. I encourage everyone to, before we go sign up as well, when does the book officially launch?
The book officially launches on Friday, the 16th. And if you look me up on Facebook, you'll see the posts for Ignite-A-Rama, which will be on Saturday. All the authors will be coming on all day to talk about their journey, their story, and their part in the book. So it's going to be great.
That is wonderful. And I believe it will be uploaded to Amazon, correct?
It will be uploaded to Amazon. So if you go onto Amazon on Friday, I believe it's the 16th through the 18th, you go onto Amazon, you download the free copy. And then once you start reading, if you would post an honest review to help bring us to bestseller status.
Oh, absolutely. And again, such an amazing story. I wish you and your other co-authors the very best. I know you have ignited the inspiration in others and will continue to do so. It has been such an honor. And even though obviously I know you personally, I really and truly am inspired and continue to be inspired by your story. Thank you so much, Vanessa.
Thank you, Janice. You mean the world to me. Thank you so much.
You as well. You know, everyone, igniting your faith means something very personal to everyone. And I want you to just think for a moment what ignites you and how perhaps you can share your story in a way that inspires others. My name is Janice Malillo, the host of Stories That Inspire Us, the author series. Truly inspired by Vanessa's story. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a
Thank you.
great day, and we shall see you all again very soon. Bye for now.